Come at them like spider monkeys, all jacked up on Mountain Dew because why not? Life is too short. Be tasteful with it though. Don't get misdemeanors.
That's correct, actually.
God, this is really. I hardly drink Mountain Dew, man. It's so.
You know
good.
why?
Chip, I'm all jacked up on Mountain Dew.
I love that.
Jacks you up.
Jacks me up. That line wasn't even in the script.
Ride around my top down, window shaking a lot now. I'ma stay proud, no Kane Brown, but I thank God for these days now. Don't make sounds, crash glass, no rebounds. End town, Nashtyville, and I stay proud now. Welcome to Nashtyville, where the conversations are always nasty. As always, I got my main man DeMonte with me.
What's up, man?
We got the one, the only.
Yes, sir. Grayson Russell. People.
What's going on, y'all? Technically, I'm a
Today
reverend.
we are jacked up on Mountain
Grayson.
Dew. Let's go.
All jacked up.
All
jacked
jacked
up.
up on Mountain Dew. So,
All right.
yeah.
Let's go. This is going to be fun, y'all. I don't like this.
It always is, man.
So Grayson, multi-talented musician and actor,
Yes,
which is crazy. So I want to dive into a little bit about the upbringing of how you got into music, how you got into acting. I always ask like the musicians / actors, like we had a
Right.
few on, like Paige Kennedy does acting in
Yeah.
music or whatever.
Yeah.
Like what your biggest passions are, all that good stuff. As far as like if you had to pick a job, would you take it in acting or would you take it in music? We'll get into all this, but before that, I want to know when did you start acting?
I started doing commercials for like the local car dealership, which like Clanton has 9,000 people in it. We might be up to 10 now, maybe.
And that's Alabama, right?
Alabama. I'm related to 3/4 of them. And, but they would use like the varsity cheer squad.
Okay.
You know, like it wasn't a big deal. You know, it was just like this little family-owned car lot. And there's this joint called Main Street, which is where just everybody goes and eats lunch.
Right.
Like that's the local spot. And so I was just social, talk to everybody. And they're like, hey, will you come and do a commercial? Sure, I don't know what I'm doing, but Mom was like, well, we'll get you like a Game Boy game. You know, the old school Game Boy Advanced SPs, baby. I was like, all right, I'm in. And so we would do anything from like, I remember they stuck like a big red wig on me and I was like Braveheart. And we did like Johnny Cash, like we would just do like little parodies, but it ended up being really popular in the state of Alabama.
Okay.
And I had done those for about a year, and my mom's an accountant, so like I said, really small town. She's a partner in the accounting firm that she started co-oping in high school.
Okay.
So she's been there
Yeah, forever.
most of her life and all of mine.
Yeah.
And she had a client come in and was like, hey, there's an article in the paper about some Will Ferrell movie that they're like putting kids in. They're having a tryout up at Clay Chalkville High School in Birmingham. You should take Grayson. And the only reason we went is because Dad used to tournament fish a lot back then. And he was fishing, and me and Mom were bored. This might as well have been pre-internet. We had nothing else to do. So I remember we just went to this audition, and there was it was a huge line. I think there was probably 2,000 or 3,000 kids there. And I don't know how many of these open calls, what they're called, I don't know how many of these auditions they had.
Right.
Probably throughout this country.
Yeah, I mean, for sure through the Southeast.
Right.
And we went, and I remember Taylor Hicks had just won American Idol, or runner-up, or whatever it was that he had done. And so in my mind, I didn't have anything to compare this long line to. But I remember, like, this must be what it's like to go to a Taylor Hicks concert. And of course, I'm the only child that's thinking that.
That's funny.
And you're like, no, it's friggin' sweltering out here. And we went in, and we were all just sitting in this auditorium. Probably held 1,000 kids, maybe 2. And it was running late. Like they were about to be out of time for this audition. And so instead of everybody going in front of like Adam McKay, who's the director, and Judd and the casting director, they said, all right, we're going to split y'all up. This half of the auditorium goes through the casting director's side, which was like in like one of the dressing rooms behind the stage. And the other half, y'all go to Adam. And the only thing I really remember, kind of playing with the kids in the auditorium. And I remember going in and auditioning in front of the casting director. And the only thing I remember about it was I couldn't really read. Like I hadn't started the second grade yet. Like, I mean, I could do like
The
C-spot
basics.
run,
Yeah.
cat in a hat, like I could sound out like a mother, but that's about it.
Yeah.
And I auditioned, and she wrote something in cursive. So sure as hell couldn't read cursive, but could barely read English on this sheet of paper. And she said, and it was funny because I don't know why, because I was by myself, and I think it was just, I don't know why that was such a different era. Mm-hmm. But she looked at this 7-year-old kid and was like, all right, go wait out in the hall, and when the door opens at the other end of the hall, you just walk in there.
Wow.
Like I wouldn't have, I don't know why, but like unless I raised the kid, I don't think now I would be like, all right, take a child, go wait out there in the hallway, and when they're done, I wouldn't trust them to do it.
Right.
I'd be whatever. And so I remember there was this big white fella that was in this metal folding chair, I guess he was security, sitting in front of the door. And I was like, hey, can you tell me what this says? And he says,
oh my God,
good. I said, all right, thank you. And I went in and auditioned. I was like, okay, good. I guess I did something right. Because I had never auditioned before.
Yeah.
Like the commercials was just like, hey, come on.
Yeah.
We're going to figure out what we're doing when you get there.
So you jumped from a local car lot commercial
to Talladega Nights.
Yeah,
to Talladega Nights.
And did you remember what they told you? Like the guy told you knew how to go in there and just based off
I remember the part that I auditioned with was the dinner table. Teacher asked me what was capital of North Carolina. I said Washington, D.C. She said, no, you're wrong. Said, you got a lumpy butt. She got mad at me and yelled at me. I pissed in my pants. And I was scared to death to say piss. It's like, ooh, I've never heard this word before, and I don't think it's a good one.
Yeah.
And I was like, Mom, what do I do?
She was like, "You're going to be in Talladega Nights."
What do I do?
Say it twice.
Oh no. What it was is they didn't even know it was going to be a real movie.
Oh,
I had no idea what was going on. My folks didn't know what was going on.
Okay.
And
wow,
we auditioned, and I think the conversation afterwards was, "Hey, that might be an actual movie."
Wow.
We were totally ignorant to what was going on.
Oh my God.
And a couple weeks later, they called Mom, and they're like, hey, we want him to come audition again up in Charlotte. So keep in mind, like, we might have gone on vacations maybe once or twice a year, and it was for like Saturday, and then Sunday we drove back.
Right.
And it was either to the beach or to the Opry.
Right.
Those are 2 places we would go.
Yeah.
Only 2 places we would go. We got lost going to Disney World one time, and then we didn't do that again. We ended up on a dirt road in an orange grove, and Dad handed Mom the map and said, "You figured this out." And he pulled out a trash bag and started picking oranges while like a truckload of workers just rode by in the back of a dump truck. I'm sitting there like 4 going, I think this is the back way into Disney World. So we didn't go on a lot of vacations. So they were like, all right, well, I think there was a kind of wondering if they should actually really take me because I ain't got a shot.
Right.
Like, there's no way I'm about to get a movie.
Right.
I have no legitimate acting experience at all.
Right.
And
could you read a little bit?
I could read a little, but this was only 2 weeks later.
Yeah, I mean,
I could read 2 weeks better worth.
Right.
And
a lot of sight words.
Yeah, a lot of sight words. And they were like, well, the baby ain't ever been to Six Flags in Atlanta. We'll go by Six Flags on the way back, and then if it works, awesome, and if it don't, we went by Six Flags. And I really remember Six Flags
more than that
because I wasn't enough weight to hold myself down going down the big hill on the Scream Machine. That old white wooden road. I don't even know if it's still there. And so I remember coming up out the seat and being like, "Oh my God, I'm gonna die!" Dad's just laughing his ass off. But we got there. And there was like 30 kids there. So we've gone from 2,000 in a auditorium to like 30 kids in like a gym. And I was head and shoulders smaller than everybody else. So at that point, my folks were like, okay, he ain't got a chance because I don't look anything like these other kids. Evidently, they want bigger kids.
Yeah.
And normally when you go in for an audition, you're in there 15 minutes is really good. Like that's like you did something right. You had a conversation, something really good. Normally it's about 5-10 minutes. However long it takes you to say the stuff, say hello and leave.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I was back there for an hour and a half.
Wow.
And it was the only time this has ever happened. And they cycled the other 29 kids through. And what we didn't realize is they had already cast me, and they were matching me to a brother, which is the audition part that you saw, because I think that's up on YouTube.
Yeah. Wow.
And so that was that was the process. And so we were just
Holy
matching me to
crow.
see who we had the most chemistry with. Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
awesome,
And so
dude.
then 2 weeks, couple of weeks later after that, they're like, hey, you got it. Clear your schedule for the
Wow.
next 60 days and come to Charlotte. And so then mom, was going, by the grace of God, I'm an only child. So that made things a lot easier. So I was raised by a bunch of old people like Bertha, Inez, Ethel, Luella, and my grandparents. So I loved at any point in time when another kid was around because I was like, oh, praise God. I wasn't mad because I was always with old people. It was just like, oh, here's another one of me.
Yeah.
But inadvertently, I just grew up around adults. So that made everything so much easier. Then I just started working with adults. You know, I mean, that's really, it wasn't like I went from playing with other 8-year-olds all the time to, oh, now I've got to sit here with a bunch of 25 and 30s.
Yeah.
But they said, all right, come up here for 2 months, two and a half, 3 months. And mom packed up all her accounting stuff. Again, this is pre like cell phones. I mean, kind of, she might have had a BlackBerry, maybe.
Yeah.
I think this probably was really still before that. And we went to Charlotte, and Dad would come up every weekend. And so we were there for 2.5 months. And I remember, it's funny, I had forgotten this. I'm doing a big social content stuff prepping for my album. And so I'm going through the scrapbooks that mom made from Talladega Nights on the little disposable camera and Wimpy Kid and all the other ones. And I vaguely remembered getting on a private jet. Now, it wasn't like a small one. It was still a big jet. And we flew. We were in Charlotte for the better part of 2.5 months filming at Lowe's Motor Speedway.
Okay.
But we were at Talladega for race week. And so they flew us from Charlotte to Talladega. I didn't realize until last week we were on the freaking Hooters jet.
Oh, that's
Which is hilarious. I was like, that is the most on-brand, like, balls out Talladega Nights move. Like, we're down here to the core. Not only are we making a movie for rednecks, at this point it's for rednecks by rednecks. We're on the Hooters jet. And I didn't realize that it was a Hooters jet until I just looked and saw the plane, because I remember standing in line and I remember like looking up, because it wasn't like couches or nothing. Like, it was set up like a normal plane.
kind
it
of
was
like
just
a casting plane.
Yeah, but it was just our it was just our plane. It was just our, I mean, it was just like riding in any other plane. It was just, which that was actually probably the first plane I'd ever gotten on. Come to think of it, because I remember us all standing out there on the tarmac and me just like looking up, and Will and Leslie and everybody talking across the line, and then I'm sure Michael Clark Duncan, John Coffey from the Green Mile, I'm sure he was having a god awful time trying to fit in it. But so we did film, and we can touch on whatever there. But the reason why I was able to stay in the business was Michael saw something in me, and I don't know if it was something that everybody else saw and chose to do something about or not do something about. All I know is that man was gracious enough that when we got to the premiere, he showed up with his manager and said, "Hey, you need to meet this kid." And I don't remember it. I remember my folks trying to explain, okay, this is the Chinese theater. John Wayne's footprints are here. This is kind of like going to church. You sit down, you don't make a lot of noise, you talk to everybody, you be kind, and you don't tell them just yes or no, you give them a story. And we had a little bit of press training, I think. We got there, and in my mind, I'm going, okay, this is like holy here. Like, this is the Chinese theater. So I'm ready to be reverent to the situation. And we step out of the limo, and I look across the street, and there's a Hooters. And so in my like 8-year-old mind at this point, I'm going,
is there a jet behind there?
I'm like, hold on. Church.
Hooters.
So you remember weird stuff when you're little. That's the thing I remember really the most from the premiere. But Michael showed up with his manager, and that's how I was able to stay in it. That's how I got the Wimpy Kid movies.
That's cool.
That's how I was able to get in the door. So I owe it all to him.
That's cool,
up to this point.
How was Will working with
Precious? Precious. I mean, from what I remember, I don't know who would be awful to a child.
No.
But here's the thing. So we were talking earlier. Like, I grew up going to church, grew up in church, played Christian music my whole life. I got a Southern rock band. We'll still play. So we opened for Zach Williams. and I was really concerned about like all the language that I was going to have to say that was scripted. Like that bothered me, and I didn't know. Even as a child, it was like, okay, this is really, I don't know what to do here, and my folks didn't know what to do either. But we knew, like, okay, this is absolutely the good Lord that's just put you here. We couldn't tell you why. But we don't know how to navigate this, but we know we're supposed to be here.
Yeah.
And I had just gotten saved while we were doing rehearsals at a church up there, and it was like, the Sunday morning where everybody gets in a fight in the Lincoln Town car, halfway try to kill each other, and you better act right. When you walk in there and you come in, your hair's all messed up. And like that was the day. And then I got saved, and I remember my timing was pretty good. We went in, and there was we were having rehearsals like the first week, and Adam, the director, we just ate lunch, and I think he took him a nap. And as he was coming up out of the nap, I met him. I was coming into the room, and I remember he was wearing like I said, you remember weird things. He was wearing a white T-shirt, I remember that. And he was probably 6'3", 6'4", so he's a big guy, certainly when you're small.
Yeah.
And I was like, hey, Mr. Adam, do I really have to say all this? And that dude lurched up, and he got up, and he looked at me, and he said, you never have to do anything you're not comfortable with. And from that point on, him, Will, Judd, anybody, because most of the film was wild lines. Like, we might do 2 takes by the script. I'm all jacked up on Mountain Dew. I'm going to come at you like a spider monkey. Chip, I'm going to scissor kick you in the back of the head. That was all stuff they realized that they could just tell me to do, tell Houston to do. And we were ignorant enough and just not intimidated, because I didn't know who Will was.
Right.
My Saturday Night Live was after my bedtime.
Right.
And Anchorman I hadn't seen because I was 6 when it come out.
Right.
And I had kind of seen Elf. And I think Houston might have seen Anchorman by then. But it wasn't, there was no, wasn't starstruck, there wasn't anything that impeded me, which was all the grace of God, because that's the only reason it came out the way it did, just 90-0, was because I didn't know to be nervous.
Right.
But anytime they thought of something that was, I'm going to kick your ass remotely, the slightest bit profane, the whole shoot would shut down. The first AD, I believe Adam, who was directing it, Judd, Will, all of them would this shy of line up, come to me, come to Mom, hey, we are so sorry. We had our heads up our ass. We by no means at all ever meant to violate the values that you have, that your son has.
Hell yeah.
We'll do our best not to do that again. I've never been on because you only ever hear horror stories. And look, Houston was 13 playing 10.
Right.
Dude, he was all fired up. You tell him whatever he wants to say, and he'll say it. So he loved it because he got to cuss up a storm.
Right.
He's the coolest kid in school.
Yeah.
And and I didn't have to. And ended up giving that whole testimony at the Dove Awards at the Grand Ole Opry. I was like 8 or 9. But Will was a big part of that in respecting that, because objectively, you hired somebody to do a job, and they don't want to do a big part of it. Most of the time, you fire them, because that's just it's business. It's a business decision,
right?
But they were gracious enough to respect the values of a child.
Heck yeah.
And now it isn't so much of an issue, because it's a part that I'm playing. It's not me.
It's not you. Exactly.
But as a 7-year-old, in my mind, I was like, this is not appropriate for me to do, and I don't know, how this is the first existential crisis I've ever, come into. But also, I mean, it was all the good Lord. It was smooth, but Will was nothing but kind and gracious to me.
Because you hear the horror story of the child actors, actresses, that you get that one giant role and then go off the deep end. Yeah. For whatever reason it may be. I do think, and if you're viewing it as a parent, that you're sitting there, you watch your child, kind of land this role, you're like, wait, we have no experience whatsoever, in this. So
my folks were terrified.
But not only you, but your parents also there was no expectation, because they've never been there before. Yeah. So they're also sitting in the room.
My dad frames houses. Right. I thought I was going to be a peach farmer like my grandparents. Like as a 7-year-old, I'm going, I want to be George Strait. I want to draw pictures. Yeah. I want to ride bulls. Right. Those are my aspirations as a child. It wasn't be a policeman, wasn't be an astronaut. Be George Strait, ride bulls, draw pictures.
But then you land in something that's super unknown, but you get the right support out the gate.
Yeah.
Which I think is crazy key. Not saying that others have not in the past, but I think that has to play a major role in how you view acting.
Absolutely. And I think because, you look back over your life and look at the things that you thought were god-awful and go, oh, that was actually just helping me dodge a bullet over here and save my ass here.
Yeah.
My saving grace was, first of all, faith in my parents, for sure, because they were within sight or sound of me at all times, which is what you're required to do.
Right.
But put it to you this way. I remember there was something we had for lunch that I didn't want to eat because I was picky. I was a little kid. I wasn't mad or mean about it. It was just, God, man, I'd really dig a fish sandwich from McDonald's. I think that's all I said. And then, of course, Dad or whoever was like, oh, no, you're going to eat whatever. You're going to drink the rap star that's in front of you. Because that's what these people have made, and you're going to eat it. Like any other reasonable parent would do. But a PA heard me say that, and I think within 15 minutes I had every variation of the McDonald's menu in bags sitting in front of me. That's a small instance. But you look at it like, oh, the sets are just spoiling these kids. Well, when it comes down to it, it's no different than the adults. When you've got a $60 million movie, $70 million movie, you got a $10 million movie riding on somebody doing something right in an immense amount of pressure in a short amount of time.
Yeah.
You're going to do whatever you can to be sure that they are taken care of. They have everything they need. And, my roles were inconsistent enough. Because after Talladega Nights, I was offered every bratty, sideways child role in the Western Hemisphere for the next 3 years. And that wasn't who I wanted to be. Yeah. It was a compliment because, evidently I'm good enough to warrant these. Yeah. No different than with Fregley playing the weird kid. Yeah. I was offered every little white Urkel role in the Western Hemisphere. Yeah. And it was I don't want to be known for that the rest of my life. And so when Talladega Nights hit, it was 2 years before I did another film. It wasn't for lack of trying. And I don't know if really anybody thought I would actually do another film. I remember I found a DVD of us at a premiere that we had at home. They're going, hey, you want to keep doing this? And I was like, well, I don't know. I mean, I enjoy doing it. I don't know if I'll do it anymore, but I would like to. I do not know.
Yeah.
But given the fact that it was at the top of everybody's game at that point in time to nothing for 2 years, I wasn't afforded the luxury of learning how to leverage said, oh, I would like McDonald's. Because all that does is increase when you realize that you can have anything you want as a and I don't think I would like to think that I would not have gotten to that point. I'm sure my folks would have took me out before I would have gotten there.
Right.
But God forbid you hit it in your 15, 16 and you can have whatever
anything.
Or whoever
that's
you want at your trailer, in your trailer, or you ain't getting out your trailer, guess what's going to show up within the hour? Whatever you ask for.
Yeah.
And it's a business decision.
Yeah.
When it comes down to it. Yeah. And I mean, adults are the same way. I've worked with a handful of them that's like, no, I'm not coming out my trailer unless you throw me another 10 grand. And then the whole shoot shuts down until somebody goes and finds
10 grand.
10 grand laid around somewhere. Just so, they can blow. And they're like, okay.
Yeah.
But Talladega Nights, boom, we're here. 2 years of nothing. Did a small movie after that, which is arguably one of the best ones I've done. It's called The Rainbow Tribe. Then it was another 2 years of nothing. And then it was Wimpy Kid. Bam, bam, bam. And so I didn't get used to having just everything at my fingertips. And the other saving grace, too, which bothered me a little bit, was that nobody at home really thought it was cool. I couldn't play ball, one, because I wasn't really any good at it, but also I couldn't get hurt.
Yeah.
So like I said, I wanted to ride bulls. Well, I can't ride bulls no more. I rode sheep as long as I could because that's what you do when you're a kid, go mutton busting. And then it was, okay, you got to be careful getting on the inner tube at the lake. You can't do X, Y, and Z because now your body is an asset.
Right.
To you. Right. It's like, okay, I can't really afford to break my arm again playing soccer because what if, I get this and then I can't go.
Yeah.
When we did the Wimpy Kid movies, we were filming every August, October, my 6th grade, 7th grade, and 8th grade year.
Did they think Wimpy Kids was going to blow up the way that it did blow up?
I don't know how they could have called it at that level.
Because I remember seeing the first one in theaters or whatever.
Yeah.
And like everyone was like, hey, like what is this? Like it's the only kid movie out now or whatever.
What's funny to me is going back and looking like what films you were up against when the movie dropped.
Yeah.
I don't remember what Talladega Nights was, but I remember, you'd go and buy DVDs and they would have like coming soon to theaters, play on the front end of it. And we went and bought, probably easily, maybe the coolest thing is we went and bought Pink Panther because Talladega Nights, the trailer
was there.
is in the intro
That's cool.
on the Pink Panther DVD.
That's cool.
So we'd go get that because it wasn't like you could pull up YouTube and go, what's the trailer for Talladega Nights?
Right. Yeah, that's true.
You would see it on TV if you had the TV on.
Yeah.
Or somebody would call the house phone and go, hey, the trailer just come on TNT.
I just saw it. Yeah.
And like, well, shit, what channel's TNT on? Oh, hell, I got Dish. What you got? I got Direct. Well, I don't know what channel. You know what I mean? That's how life was circa 2007, 2008. Awesome. So we would go get the DVDs to see, what would come out. But Wimpy Kid, we were a little worried because it came out with How to Train Your Dragon.
Oh, wow.
And so I remember being a little worried. Like, I mean, you don't really worry about how a film's, or at least I didn't grow up, how a film's going to perform.
Right. Yeah.
Because as a 12-year-old, that's out of my control.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
I did the best I could, and that's the best I could do.
Yeah.
And so it's funny to kind of look at what you were up against when those films came out.
Yeah.
Beezus and Ramona was another one, which I don't think it did really well. It was like the female contemporary to Wimpy Kid, I think. But I remember being like, oh, snap. How to Train Your Dragon's coming out. I mean, that's a good movie. Like, I'd turn on How to Train Your Dragon right now.
So, Diary of a Wimpy Kid, hilarious movie, by the way. So, like, when I first went into theaters, and I think at the time, I mean, obviously, that was like, how long did that come out? 15, 20 years?
2010. I want to say so. Almost 15 years. Yeah, because I think it's 10. It came out 10, 11, and 12. Yeah.
So that's when I took my oldest daughter to see that movie, and I'm sitting in the theaters, and I'm thinking like, yo, like oh, I'm going to see a kid movie, like it's gonna be horrible. Bro, I like genuinely freaking loved the movie. I was like, oh, this is...
I got a text this morning from Rob, who plays Rowley, and he said, hey, I didn't realize, I kind of heard about it a couple days ago. They're doing a Wimpy Kid musical now.
Oh, wow.
No
like, hey,
way.
It's premiering, and they want to do like a TikTok thing with us. Will you hop on? So I get to do that tonight, which is cool.
That's cool.
My point I was trying to make earlier, I remembered. My other saving grace, which I didn't like at the time, was nobody really thought it was a big deal that I was going and doing these things. Not that I wanted people, worshiping the ground I walked on. But it was just a normal, Grayson's gone. Grayson's back. We'll all go watch it. And it was cool to them when we would go somewhere outside of town of 9,000 people and then everybody else knew about it. I think...
Where did you shoot that movie?
We shot all the Wimpy Kids, we shot them in Vancouver. We were up in Canada.
Wow.
Yeah.
Oh, wow.
But I think if everybody around me had thought it was a big deal, my life would have turned out far, 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 far worse because I would have believed that I was a big deal.
Yeah.
Because socially, dude, I was at the bottom of the totem pole. It doesn't get much worse than going to an Alabama public school and playing Fregley at the same time. Would not social suicide, dude. Would not 10 out of 10 would not recommend trying to do that.
Right.
But that ended up being my saving grace because I mean it really humbled me, and not that I thought I was something, but it kept me from ever having that.
That's the grounding.
Did they categorize you in high school as Fregley?
No, it was it was only a big deal to the seniors when I was a freshman because those were the guys I'd never gone to school with. because it was always.
Oh, gotcha.
Elementary school was elementary to second. It was 3 years. Intermediate was 3 years. So when you got that fourth year, it was cool to them. Like Talladega Nights was cool to them because they were 13, 14.
Old enough,
or they were old enough to
kind of understand.
Yeah, and that was really like their first coming of age movie. They're like, all right, well, Daddy's gonna take you to see your first PG-13 movie.
Cool
so like seniors all thought I was it, and I was like, praise God for the first time in my life. The big kids, because I was still small, I was still a little guy.
You'd have gone to like 9 proms, but his parents said no.
Yeah. Yeah, I went all 4 years. My dad went to 7. My dad went to prom in the 8th grade. The second time he was in 8th grade.
I've done a lot,
and he didn't even have your roles.
No, correct. Yeah, that was a stud.
I'll tell you something crazy. I've done a lot of stuff in my life. Like obviously, like worked with Snoop, done everything.
Yeah.
The biggest highlight that I'll always remember is when Michael Falduta, the kid from School of Rock, he went to my high school.
Okay.
He was the one that played the fashion designer.
Okay.
Yeah.
He was announcing the talent show that we had.
That's perfect. That's on brand.
And he brought me out. He was like, and they used to call me Dover Dave because that was the school I would have had to go to if I didn't go to Pope John or whatever. Right. So he's like, now entering Dover Dave. And I was like, holy shit, it's the kid from School of Rock. Like, he goes to my school. Or whatever. So, like, funny. He brought me out for the performance.
That's funny.
Yeah, but you remember stuff like that. Like for me, the things that, when people gave you a shot at something, when there was nothing for, that they gave freely. They didn't get nothing out of you coming and doing and being here. Like I said, I wanted to be George Strait when I was 2. That's all I've ever wanted to do. Film landed in my lap. It's not that I worked for it. It happened. Yeah. And I've cultivated that my whole life, and it's something that I do work hard at. Mm-hmm. But it was ultimately an opportunity that was set in front of me.
So would you say music is your biggest passion?
It depends. It goes back and forth because I've always done music in the gaps of doing film. Gotcha. Because ultimately, film might be 2 to 6 months somewhere.
Yeah.
And you might not do another one for a year or 2, or you might do 5. When we did Wimpy Kid, I did 3 Wimpy Kids and 3 other movies right there. So I did 6, in a row, and then it was 3 years of nothing, which was a whole other deal. That was the first time in high school I thought, okay, God is like, this is really what I'm supposed to be doing because I'm working my ass off and just nothing's happening. Right. My problem was the politics of it is if you're 14. You want to look like you're 11 or 12 because then you can work longer hours than the 12-year-olds can.
Gotcha.
That makes sense. Yeah. My problem was I was 14, 15, but I looked 17 or 18.
Okay.
So I was going up against 18-year-olds who looked 14 and could work as adults.
Yeah.
Gotcha.
You know what I'm saying? Yeah. So they call it the black hole.
Gotcha.
That year is I looked older than I was. I couldn't play.
That's why you see a lot of these actors
on
TV, like when Riverdale or whatever aired. All these cats had to have been like in their late
25, 30.
They're grown.
So my buddy,
high school
Tony
kids.
Odell, I swear the man is immortal. He was our acting coach on Wimpy Kid, on the first Wimpy Kid. He was the guy that came up to me. He's like, hey, how about you do the it's got a hair in it line, but do your falsetto. It's got a hair in it. That was all Tony. That wasn't me. That was all Tony saying, hey, try it like that. Tony, I think he turned 50 when we were doing that, and he didn't look a day over 32. He was 30 playing in the original Cobra Kai guys, playing a high school kid in the original Karate Kid movie. Yeah. And you look at him, you're like, oh, that dude's all of 15. Oh, no, he's 30. Right. And we're like, he's somebody that pulled it off. But what you do, the way to curb kind of the black hole, and a lot of my buddies did it, was you hop on a TV show. You hop on a TV show right there, and it'll carry you through that time. My problem is I figured out like a few months ago, my family has been in the same county for like since the 1860s.
Wow. Yeah.
My mom's family live on the same road for the most, up until like 3-4 years ago, and they still live 5 minutes just the other direction.
Yeah.
I had no desire to pick the family up and move us to LA or anywhere else because, you sign a contract like that, you might be under it until you're 18, you might be under the next 3-4 years. That's what I loved about film. I would do like guest roles on different shows, which is how I got Wimpy Kid. Because when I auditioned for Wimpy Kid, I did it on tape, and they said, hey, we thought you're great, but we're going a different direction. And so I didn't get Wimpy Kid the first time I auditioned for it.
Wow.
We auditioned. I auditioned for Greg, so the lead, and they said, "Hey, we want you to audition for Fregley." And audition, they said, "Thanks, but no thanks." And 5 months later, I was in LA doing a guest spot on a show called I'm in the Band, which was a Disney XD show, ran for a couple seasons. And just so happened that they still hadn't cast Wimpy Kid yet. They were running like 3 months behind because they hadn't found the lead. So they had just found Zach. And then I happened to be out there, and they said, "Hey, will you come in for Fregley again?" But all because I was doing a guest spot. That's the only thing I did besides film. Because film was okay, cool. We gonna go somewhere for 2 months, 3 months.
Yeah,
I get to come back home.
Yeah,
my folks get to come back home.
You have some like God was looking out.
100%. Now, the first time I was ever starstruck in my life, coolest thing in the world. And I guess I got home. I don't think anybody believed me. I don't know if this was just because of that particular show, but I'm in the Band. I just did the pilot. I just did the opening episode. I don't know if it was customary for this to happen or if they just did it normally. You do it in front of a live audience. So I was already terrified enough of that. Going, okay, we've just did like that Wednesday, we did it for the network. And then Thursday, we did it for all the producers because it's the first episode and they want to be sure we get it right. And so I'm like, am I about to do Disney? Because it was. And how they have it set up is like sitcom. All the sets are next to each other and they're open-faced like a damn roast beef sandwich.
Yeah.
So you can put the cameras in front of it and just slide it down set to set like a hallway. It would be like these front walls on any of these office rooms not existing. And you just roll the cameras down it.
Yeah.
And so I come in to do my thing. I shoot through my little door and I come in and do my little bit and turn. And I'm thinking, okay, I know there's going to be a bunch of people up there, but I got to turn this direction. And as I'm looking up, I get caught because not only is it a live audience, not only are the producers there, but apparently it's customary for it, or at least maybe it was then, for the other shows that were filming to come watch you shoot your first episode. So I look up. It's not just 400 people. It's not just or maybe 2, whatever. It was enough. There's Dylan and Cole Sprouse because we had conjoined studios with Sweet Life on Deck. There's Dylan and Cole. I didn't know who. So Doc Shaw. I didn't know who Doc Shaw was because he hadn't started. That was his first season. They were filming it, so that season hadn't come out yet. Matt, Brenda Song, and Debbie Ryan. And of course, I'm in like the 6th grade. Like she might as well have been Heather Locklear to y'all. I was like, that's friggin' Farrah Fawcett. Like that's Debbie Ryan. And so then I'm just sweating bullets, dude. Because I'm like, they're just standing there, chatting it up and watching us work. And so then I'm like, oh my God. And I got done doing my part. And of course was like, I gotta go say hey to Debbie. Yeah. And I can't remember if I went up to her or she came up to me. And we ended up talking for a minute, sitting on this little cart, had little wheels on it. And she figured out I had done Talladega Nights. And she goes, no way. There's no way that's you. And I was like, yeah, it is. That was my first movie. She pulls out her flip phone, and I can't remember if it was I think it was the Spider Monkey line was Debbie's ringtone.
Are you serious?
And it had been that way for years. And so that was the first time I was like,
I made it.
Nobody at home's gonna believe this. Yeah. I feel like Frodo looking at the damn elephant like nobody at home is gonna believe this.
Grayson went beyond the seniors.
Yeah.
How much younger are you than Debbie Ryan?
She's
probably my age, probably 35. Maybe.
I don't know if she's that old. I'm 26. She's probably 30. She wasn't much older than me.
Yeah.
But like that was the first time that was like
Debbie awesome. Ryan. If you're single, we got a guy for you. Right here.
I think she's married. No, Debbie's cool. and so getting back to the Wimpy Kids. The cool thing about filming them was when we were in Vancouver. If you were filming a movie in Vancouver, you stayed in one of 2 hotels there. The really, really ritzy one was the Shangri-La. The other one was the Sutton. And the Sutton was fantastic. It was literally our home. We were all stacked up on top of each other, so you could like hit on the floor, and that might have been Zach and Linda. Yeah. You can hit on the ceiling, that might be Karin and Harry. And it was we were as much of a family as you could be. None of us had really ever worked out of the country before. I think Zach had. Now it was Canada. We weren't. Yeah. We weren't way off somewhere. We were just we were still on the same continent. It was very Americanized. But we were all each other had.
Wow.
That's cool.
So we would work for 10 hours a day. We'd go to school somewhere in those 10 hours. Well, when we get off, we'd go out to dinner. We'd go swimming. We'd go, in the hotel.
How does that work as like a kid?
Try to find that balance for them. That's crazy.
Yeah, I mean, like that's
just homeschool there while you're
on set? So they're required to have a teacher, and so my Natalie Smith was her name, and so she was our teacher for all 3 films, and your teacher acts like is your liaison too. So if there's something you're not comfortable with doing, like with Talladega Nights with me saying I didn't really want to cuss.
Right.
I didn't know that I could have kind of gone to the teacher, and it made more sense for me not to, which I saw the good Lord too. Just went straight to the director. But if there's something that you're not comfortable doing, if there's something you're not comfortable wearing, you go to the teacher, and the teacher also acts as like your liaison to your buffer to your line of defense to production. But everything that's filming there at that time, you're pretty much going to be in the same hotel with them. So like Charlie St. Cloud was a movie that's filming there. So it was a game of just to see who you get in the elevator with. So I got in the elevator with Heather Locklear. Didn't know who she was. I knew her as like Tommy Lee's, at one point in time because I just started playing guitar. So I'm like Motley Crue.
Right.
Yeah.
I can't remember if she was.
That's awesome.
Yeah. So like I'd get in the elevator with people that I didn't know to care about. Mom would get in the elevator with like Vanessa Hudgens or whatever. But we knew Wimpy Kid was a big deal.
Yeah.
We didn't realize how big of a deal it was until we were doing the third one, and all the Sweet Life guys were there filming the Sweet Life movie. I think it was like On Deck 2, which I'd already seen them and met them a couple years before and got to see Debbie and all that. But we didn't realize Wimpy Kid was as big of a deal as it was until it was a big deal of them. And they were like, "Oh, bro, those are the Wimpy Kids." And we were like,
"Why do you know me?"
Huh? We're the
He's like, "You know what? You're right.
Sweet Life.
You are
like,
right.
Hold on. Now, a funny one. I don't think I've ever told this on a podcast. I can't believe I'm doing this. Two stories. Two little stories. So there was a set of twins that were on Sweet Life, and there were two blonde women who were just gorgeous, and they were probably 16, 17, and they knew who we were. And so then we're like, "Oh, yeah, you do." And me and Rob, who played Rowley, so he played the big kid. So Rob was still stocky. Rob was still stocky then. We're standing there. We catch them in the like breezeway. We're headed to the elevators. They're coming back, and they're like, "Oh my God." And so we're like, "Oh my God," we didn't know what to do because we're like 12.
Right.
No, we're not even 12. We're like 11.
Right.
We're like, "Oh my God, you are goddesses." And if y'all, I don't remember your names. I'm sorry, but y'all are listening. You're the man. You're the woman. You're the women. They asked us. They're like, "So what are y'all's favorite movies?" Just a general acting question. Me and Rob both froze because we're like, "Oh, they're speaking to us." And my favorite movie is Lord of the Rings. Hands down. But I didn't want to come out as a nerd and be like Lord of the Rings. So I was like Dark Knight. Because Dark Knight just come out. And Rob shut down. He shut down. He goes, Vertigo, which is like a 50s Alfred Hitchcock movie. And they ended up like, "Oh, what room are y'all in? We want to make y'all some cupcakes." And they made us some cupcakes and brought it to us. They were really sweet. But me and Rob, I was fine, and I didn't have this conversation with him until like a year ago. So this is like 14 years, 10, 12 years of like just silence on the matter. Like, "You remember doing that?" And he said, I was like, "Why did you say Vertigo?" And he's like, "Grayson, The Dark Knight was my favorite movie, and I didn't know what to say." And he said it because I thought you were going to say Lord of the Rings. And he said Dark Knight, and I didn't know what to say, and I panicked. And I said Alfred Hitchcock. I was like, "Yeah." We look like dumbasses.
That's so funny, man.
We look like nerds.
That's funny.
So,
I mean, it tied right back to your movie, man.
yeah. Yeah.
So at least you stayed in character.
Yeah, yeah. We look like that. We were true. We were true to form. Rob was very kind and somewhat naive, and I was just strange.
That's so funny, man.
But the most fun things we did, one of the things we did on Wimpy Kid was, like I said, I was an only child, so I loved getting to be around other kids. And you get raised in like a really small town in Alabama that, for the most part, has no understanding or desire to understand the way of life that is West Coast Hollywood doing film, and that way of life has nothing for the people back in Alabama. So it was weird, being raised over here, but then going through adolescence in this part of the world and trying to defend both is a weird way to come up.
Right.
But we were like a family, and so I remember one day I was hanging out with Rob, who played Rowley, and his dad Bob. It was us and one parent. Because somebody had to be with you, and so every once in a while, the other parent would come up, and you'd get to see them, but usually somebody was at home working.
Right.
And so Bob was talking about how when he'd get bored in college, wherever he went to college, he would drop hot dogs out of his balcony because he lived over a freeway. So he'd just drop hot dog wings on the cars, driving nothing, relatively harmless. So fast forward to the next day. we're Karin, who played Shirag. His dad had to go somewhere. Harry went somewhere. So me and Rob went up to Karin's room. And we had there's a balcony that overlooks the pool. It's got a glass roof. And there's a little side window, really small, behind the TV that overlooks a side street. And I think it was the only time my mom didn't wear me out for something that she should have probably wore me out for. She let me be a kid, and I appreciate that, Crystal. We were thinking about how Bobby should just throw stuff out the window. And so they started making paper airplanes, sending them. And when I was in the 6th grade, we started rolling houses, TPing houses with our parents. All of us piled into like an S10 riding past the armory. Scared to death, and it's like Halloween, and we're out here just hucking toilet paper. So I'm like, look, let my redneck wisdom make your day. So I would take toilet paper in a strip about like that and cut the sink on a drip, get it wet, ball it up, huck it down there. And so we covered the roof of that pool. Well, then we got on the side street. We're on the 9th floor. So we're 9 stories up off this side street in the heart of downtown Vancouver. It's like the Prince of Egypt. You ever watch that old one where they're like dropping the things of wine, and the people are just getting covered by them? It was like that. We've got these wet toilet paper balls, and we're trying not to hit people, but we're just dropping them. There was an old man out there feeding the meter, and just like, pa, pa, pa. And so then I swear he almost broke a hip trying to get out of there, because it's like you don't know what you're looking at. You don't know what it is. You just know stuff's falling, and it looks like a diaper. Yeah. I mean, it looks like a wet diaper just exploded. And I remember there was one lady with like a double stroller. And we're like, oh, this is going to be fun. So we dropped it. And we, didn't hit the woman, didn't hit the kids. But it was like, drop it. She's drop another one. Then she just takes off running. She's hauling down the side street because she thinks like her children are about to get just warped by by whatever these things are falling from the sky. We had and then of course we thought, oh my God, they're going to kick us out because we covered the roof of the glass roof of the pool. And Bob, we get back and he's like, he had a real thick New England accent. Can't do it. Has a real thick New England accent. He's like, "Hey, did y'all do that?" And we're like, He's like, "Well, y'all forgot I'm on the balcony below you." He said, "I was sitting out there reading a book, and I would see something just out the corner of my eye, and hear a thump, and hear a bunch of giggling, and it's in there, boom." Us up there. But I'm sorry, this is the one where we didn't get kicked out of the hotel. We thought we were, but we just pelted that thing with wet toilet paper balls, just as big as we could get them. And then, of course, we probably did it till we were out of toilet paper.
All right.
So you went from Talladega Nights, Diary of a Wimpy Kid. So you have freaking Will Ferrell, and then you get to work with another GOAT, Tom Hanks.
Tom Hanks, yes, sir. So I've done 12 features. Then I've got a TV show that just dropped yesterday called Blue Ridge, the series, not the movie. Yeah, Blue Ridge, the series. So that's
it's off of the movie, though, right?
Yeah, it's spun off the movie. So I didn't do the movie, but we're going into season 2 in September, which would be cool. So that's on INSP, which is actual on cable. So if you got TV still, go watch it.
Hell yeah, Blue Ridge.
Blue Ridge. But the last film I did was a World War II film with Tom Hanks. It's called Greyhound. It's like Jaws, but with submarines. That's what I call it. We did boot camp with the Navy and Marines. We got trained by the guy. Captain Dale Dye, 3-time Purple Heart recipient. Wow. He trained all the guys on Platoon back in the day. Charlie Sheen, Johnny Depp, Forrest Whitaker.
Nice.
Band of Brothers, Saving Private Ryan, The Pacific, Alexander the Great. Every bit of a legend in that community is as Hanks is. That was something. Working with Tom was something I'd never even dreamed of. No different than like I don't think like I'm gonna go throw the winning touchdown at the next Super Bowl. Yeah. That's not on my mind. Would I love to? Absolutely. Is that going to happen? Not a chance.
Yeah. But at this time now, because now you're past the kid stage.
Yeah, past the kid stage.
So now you clearly recognize it's freaking Tom Hanks you're working with.
Yeah, and so it's not the lack of intimidating because I don't know any better as a child. You're right, it is, okay, this is Tom Hanks. This is Rob Morgan, who just did Mudbound, or he had done Mudbound then, but then he did friggin' Don't Look Up and Just Mercy. And Rob, you're the man. Yeah. I remember we were doing boot camp, and we're touring the USS Kid, which is the ship we were filming on. And he looks around and he's looking at all these bombs and stuff, and he goes, "Man, gonna have to bleep it out." But he goes, "Man, all this over some fucking tea.
Yeah.
All this over some tea in 1776. He's like, all this over.
He goes all the way back to the tea.
All this over some fucking tea.
That's funny.
Yeah,
man.
dude. But Tom is the most least intimidating individual I've ever worked with.
Yeah. I can see that, though.
He ended up, again, it really humbled me. It was the only shoot I've ever done linearly. So we first scene, first day, last scene, last day.
Okay.
Because we weren't limited by the availability of locations. We were on the real boat or we was on the fake boat. Take your pick which boat you want to be on. And the fake one, what it was is it was a gimbal. So they had recreated the bridge portion of the USS Kidd, which is a 1938 model naval destroyer, and put it on a hydraulic motor, like 20 feet up in the air. And so the set moves under you as you're working according to what it's supposed to be doing in the film, which is really cool. And so we had about a week of rehearsals before we started. And the first conversation I had with Tom, he was, and I think I just have a habit of it, and it's something I've tried to work on. Just when you see somebody that you're working with that you don't know, more often than not, especially if they're young, you don't really expect them to have had a 15-year career up to that point.
Right.
You know, because I'm like 19, so at that point I'd done it for like 12 years.
Yeah.
The majority of my life. He never talked to anyone like it was their first day. Never, and that's not uncommon. You know, but it was never, there was nothing that could remotely have been interpreted as the slightest bit condescending, slightest bit babying anybody. We were all working professionals. And he asked me, you know, what was some of the stuff I'd worked on and how long I'd been doing it. And we started talking about Michael Clark Duncan because he had done, he's how I stayed in this.
Yeah.
And he did Green Mile with Hanks.
Yeah.
And he looked and he said, "Oh man, that was you? I watched that last week. That's a great movie." and then I want to say that night at dinner, they were like, "Hey, you know the little redheaded kid from Talladega Nights is on this movie." I couldn't be more humbled by that. That's like Nick Saban being like, "Bro, I watched it. That was you?
Yeah.
You threw that?
Right.
Bro, I watched that last week."
Yeah.
Did y'all know the dude? Y'all know friggin' AJ McCarron's on this team, you know, or whatever.
Now I think I now know where his allegiance lies in Alabama.
Yeah, 100%. 100%.
I was going to ask.
I was made to pick Alabama or Auburn as a child. It's like, are you gonna follow the Lord or be a Satanist? It was Alabama or Auburn, and my idea as a child was like, okay, Alabama is a state.
Yeah.
Auburn is a city.
That's funny.
The city is small. The state is big. Alabama's going to win. Dude, friggin' Mike Shula was the coach. We were getting just wore out, dude. I was like, I have made the wrong decision. And then, of course,
it all paid off.
Yeah, no, it all paid off. And then everybody hated me. They're like, you're just a bandwagon. I'm like, no, I am not.
You've won the championship half of your life.
Yeah, pretty much. I mean, and that was something cool that's like, I remember when we beat the Longhorns. I believe it was Texas in like 2009. I remember my folks waking me up because I'd fell asleep on the couch. Like, bro, we won the national championship. And I'm like, okay. Yeah. Okay. And then like everybody like comes into school like the fifth grade, like we're all hung over because we were all up till 9:30, 10 o'clock watching the BCS national championship.
That's funny,
but it was just cool that, you know, like that was at least Alabama was known for something outside of race riots. You know, like that was something really cool to take into, you know, the film world with me, because really at that point, it at least in Hollywood, you know, when I'd be working on something, when I say Alabama, it's like Selma.
Saw your tag for it. Yeah.
Yeah, you know, like Edmund Pettus Bridge.
Yeah.
Dogs and hosing, you know, black people down with hoses. You know, like that's kind of what Alabama was known for. You know, and I mean that's just how it was. And so that was something, and I've never even really talked about that, but that was something that was like, okay. Because I always felt like I had to kind of be on the defense, even though I wasn't raised in that kind of environment at all whatsoever. That wasn't. You know, I mean, that was something that everybody at home was very conscious of and made a very conscious effort not to promote.
Yeah.
any kind of and that's not like a bandwagon, everybody's racist BS. Like that was, hey, we screwed up. We ain't gonna do that again.
Yeah.
And so to
was
have
Bama bad for that?
It was back. It was back in the day.
Yeah,
but when
it's in the South too.
Yeah,
I mean,
yeah,
so just
it's in the
general,
South. Like we didn't. Alabama doesn't have a Nashville. You know, you think of Tennessee, you think of Nashville, you think of music.
Right.
You think of Texas, you think of cowboy hats and Tex-Mex and the Dallas Cowboys.
Yeah.
You think of Alabama. Now you think about Crimson Tide football.
Yeah,
Correct.
that's true.
Yeah.
Cam Newton.
That's true.
Derrick Henry.
Now that's
he's
pre
100%
2008. Alabama wasn't known for jack other than like a bunch of cotton fields, Civil War, Selma.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
You know, Bull Connor, whatever the sheriff's name was. You know, like that was kind of that's kind of it. Like we weren't really known for much.
Yeah.
And I mean, there was some good stuff that came out, but that was like because now I say Alabama anywhere and they're like, oh yeah, Roll Tide or not. You know, like forget you, dude.
So now we got Grayson and Charles Barkley that have kind of erased and saved, and they've helped erase the minds of people of the past.
Yeah. I mean, because that's not the environment I was raised in.
Yeah.
Being mindful, I was raised by a bunch of old people, and that still wasn't.
That's a valid point.
That still wasn't the temperament that I was raised under.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, even though they were people that were around at that point in time. I mean, I spent a lot of time with this old lady named Bertha. She was my granddad's oldest sister. Her husband tried to hire my granddad to work for him because my granddad was the first one that could read and write. He wanted him to come up and help him shoot trim mold because Pop could read and Elmer Lee couldn't. He passed away when I was 2, and so I kind of helped Bertha through that. She started keeping me, you know, and that was kind of her segue kind of out of grief. But that just wasn't something. And so for me, like when I got out into the world as a small child, and that's what Alabama was known for, it was like, whoa. You know, I'm not out here being a social justice warrior for the state of Alabama or really much of anything, but like that was something I was really glad for when ball came around. That was like, now we're known for something that we're good at. That's not a bad thing.
You know, it's crazy. Because how crazy the world is now, as bad as it was in the times of Selma and everything else, people hate Alabama just as much now for football.
But I'd much rather you hate us for football than hosing down humans.
It's a much better reason to hate the state than it is
because
for
Alabama's a powerhouse. But thank God they are.
Yeah.
You know, I stopped in Alabama, must have been like 7-8 years ago, kind of when Bama was like really striving.
Yeah.
And I remember stopping.
And now it's known for Talladega too. That was nice. That was nice. They're like, oh, Talladega's yes, sir.
Sorry,
Mountain Dew, baby.
That's right.
Hell yeah.
Hey, they had to pay a bunch of royalties to keep this in because I want to say Coke was a sponsor of NASCAR.
Oh wow.
Oh really?
Yeah, the I'm on Jacked Up on Mountain Dew just came out of somebody's.
It was worth it.
Butt and was like, say this.
It was 100%
it was not
worth
intended
it for somebody. So.
And then Mountain Dew sales went through the moon. I guarantee it.
So
I stopped in Alabama. We stopped at a pizza place, and it was a small town. It probably was the town that you were. That you were from.
No telling. Yeah,
and the only job that they had, like the whole town that supplied the city from falling or whatever, because like the city had no money, nothing.
Yeah.
The only way that they can pay for the town to strive was everyone would go and park the cars for the Bama games. And that was enough money for the city to actually
yes, that'd been somewhere like outside Tuscaloosa.
Yeah.
I mean, you want to talk about like an economic
boost.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, you look at like, I mean, it would probably be, I mean, it's not Taylor Swift saving the like U.S. economy with the Eras tour, but I mean, that was huge, man. I mean, you want to, I mean, it was just.
Well, you had hotels built and everything else that would just never happen.
You had the whole state have something to be proud of.
Yeah.
That I don't think I didn't perceive as a child as something that we had. Like it wasn't always. I always felt like I had to be on the defense.
Yeah.
For it, and then that kicked off. I was like, okay. We all got something we can be proud of that we don't all have to defend ourselves over something that we weren't even alive to have done.
Right.
You know, but our parents were, and whatever side they were on is up to them.
Yeah.
I can't help that.
Right.
But yeah, and so then like my folks always did. I'll tell you this story because it's really cool. Which I hinted on it the other day. I've got a song. So for y'all don't know,
you got to perform it too.
Yeah, okay. I can do one of them. I've got a Southern rock band. So I've had bands my whole life. Had a band in the second grade that sang solely Bee Gees music. So when we were doing Talladega Nights, Will and Adam would be making Bee Gees jokes. But I started traveling doing gospel music with my parents when I was 5. And so I've had bands my whole life. I started leading worship in the 7th grade, and so I played every Sunday morning, every Wednesday night for about the next 9 years, up through my undergrad, which is film. And then I did so much work with actors on sets. I got a master's in clinical mental health counseling. Because I just didn't want to, okay, Lord, if you want to put me in these situations, I want to know what's going on. I don't know how I can be more helpful, but also, how to protect myself and not, be in a compromising spot with somebody who is unstable.
Yeah.
Or to a degree that I can measure. But when my granddad was 3, his mother died. She got melanoma picking cotton, fell dead. And his dad became a belligerent alcoholic, as anybody else would in that situation. You just lost your wife and you got 6 kids to manage now.
Yeah.
What else you gonna do? And so he was the only really other musician besides people that married in, my great-granddad. And so he would play like all the local honky-tonks and everywhere else. And my granddad, when he was 7, he got rheumatic fever. And I've got a song about this called Turned Out Good. It paralyzed him from the waist down. And so how it works is it kind of works up you and goes to your heart, and then you die. And penicillin wasn't a thing in like 1952. And I got a video I can give it to you. Y'all want to drop it in here? It's wild of him talking about it. He's bawling his eyes out. They're like, all right, kid, you're done. I mean, this is it. There ain't a doctor to take you to. If there was, we couldn't afford to take you to him. There's a tent revival going on over at Glad Tidings. We can take you to that. But I ain't taking your ass in there. Somebody else is going to have to do it, but I'll get you there. Because they didn't want anything to do with faith. They didn't want nothing. You took my wife? No. Forget you, dude.
Yeah.
And the whole family with spouses all stood outside this church service arguing about who was going to have to take this crippled child in there. You do it. Oh, the hell, I'm going in there. You go in there. And my plastered great-granddad was like, fucking, I'll do it. So here comes this drunk stumbling down the aisle with this 7-year-old cripple. And the pastor said, man, what's wrong with him? He said, he ain't walked in 8 months. He said, in the name of the Father, and Son, and the Holy Ghost, you put him down and let him go. And Cecil Cleckley took off running. No rehab, no atrophy. I got the receipts, man. I'll send it to you. And naturally, the whole family, boom, converted, built the church I was raised. Built the church I was raised in. And so I grew up singing gospel music. Grew up in that hardcore Pentecostal environment, for better in some cases, for worse in others.
Yeah.
And started traveling with my folks when I was 5, and that was the foundation for the music. Like I said, we didn't go on vacations a lot, but my first memory, I was 2, was standing outside the Opry in line at the 75th anniversary, dressed up like George Strait, and the Old Crow Medicine Show was playing the door, and the only reason I remember it is because I was dancing, and they thought it was cute and pointed and laughed, but I was embarrassed because I thought they was laughing at me. And so the only thing I remember, and I only remember it because I was embarrassed, was going like that and looking down at my boots.
Wow.
Little black pants and my little black pointy-toed boots. I've always wanted to be a musician. I always have been for the most part. And I've been very fortunate to take the crew that I started in college, playing coffee shops and frat parties, to we played more or less in an arena 2 weeks ago. 40,000 people.
Wow.
And I'm able to sing this song about my granddad, and the second verse is about my dad who was abused as a child. And then I'm able to say, they all turned out good. The good Lord is the only common denominator. And we're not a Christian band. We're just Christians who happen to play rock music. Yeah. I mean, we're Southern rock musicians that happen to be Christians. That's really what it is. And don't get me wrong, I'm not perfect at all. And this album's called Living in Women, because that's literally our prayer request most of the time before we go on stage. What you got? No, my dad's sick. Mom's in this, living in women, dude, that'll cover it. And so it's every bad decision I've made, very few good ones in my relationships. That's what the album covers. But this song turned out good. I'm able to sing about that with my granddad. I'm able to sing about that with my dad, who I've toured with since I was 5. And then I'm able to bring his tale out there as the man whose mother left when he was a child.
Can we hear it?
And he was abused by his dad. I can play it for you.
Let's hear it.
You want me to play it for you?
So what are you going to play for us now?
Yeah. So this song's going to turn out good. I kind of introed earlier about my granddad and my dad. It's all true, which is cool. I didn't mean to write this at all. It just kind of came out. But it'll be on the album. I think we'll drop it around Christmas. So,
okay. Heck yeah.
Anyway.
Let's hear it.
He was blue collar for most of his life, was the youngest of 6 with 2 kids and a wife, and you'd never know it if he walked in the room. He'd work nights to bring home the bacon, and he only had a 10th grade education, but he's probably the smartest man I ever knew. They used to make t-shirts and they'd stick me in a box. He'd sing Big Bad John, walk me through the shop, and he always made me feel 10 feet tall. But sometimes I'd look into his eyes and they'd seem old. And just by looking, you never know that his mama died when he was 3, got cancer picking cotton, fell down in the weeds, and he wasn't tall enough to see what was going on. At 7, he got paralyzed from the waist down, 'cause the fever took his legs, so he'd slide on the ground. But they took him to that tent revival, and they all watched him run. So you can't tell me that there ain't a father and there ain't a son. 'Cause he turned out good. He's worn a tie for most of my life, built a house with his hands for his kid and his wife, and I think he'd rather die than retire. I used to hate Saturdays 'cause he'd make me go fishing. At nights he'd study that Sunday school lesson, and he'd bring me to tears singing with that choir. But sometimes I'd look into his eyes and they'd seem old. And just by looking, you never know that when his mama left, his daddy turned on to liquor, and that kid got abused by his babysitter, and now he can't remember most of his childhood. But he grew up and married an Alabama queen. Now his kid's in the movies and he's chasing his dreams, and my daddy made a life for all of us the way that he should. So you can't tell me that you've been through too much to be any good, 'cause he turned out good. Used to be paralyzed child, raised that Alabama queen, taught my daddy about Jesus. They taught it to me, and that's the only reason I'm able to be who I am. So you can't tell me that there ain't a father and there ain't a son. And you can't tell me that you've been through too much to be any good. 'Cause they turned out good.
Holy crap.
Slow clap it up. Slow clap it up.
Holy crap.
So that'll be out. We only played that for like 40,000 people Saturday, and I played it right that time. So sorry I messed this one up twice.
No, it's all good, man.
Yeah.
Oh
so
my
none
God.
of the other songs are like that. We got
Wow.
one coming out called Corn and Kerosene, which is about all the things that I have done to pay my band when the frat parties in the coffee shops didn't.
Yeah.
Wow.
That's awesome,
Dude,
man.
that freaking song, that story in that.
That's what I'm saying. He just told the story. He just told it to us.
But the way.
With his guitar in his
my
hand this
God.
time. So that was awesome.
But yeah,
Very
sorry,
nice.
sorry I screwed up the progression that I wrote.
No, no, you
Bro.
went.
But yeah,
No,
I
that
was,
nice.
I was outside cooking steaks. Well, my dad was cooking steaks. Sorry, I was outside watching him cook steaks, and was going through the part of my master's where I was like, "Hey, man, thanks for. I understand now how important those first couple of years of life are. Thanks for me just for letting me just be raised by a bunch of old women that worship the ground I walked on, and not some half-assed, half-lit high school kid that could have done whatever to me or just let me get into whatever."
Yeah.
And he locked up. My dad's an awfully hard man. He's 54, 53 at this time. He locked up and he started bawling. And he said, the only reason you were raised that way is because I was abused by my uncle as a child, and I don't remember it. And I think I had a good childhood, but I don't know, and I want to believe that I did, and nobody knows, and your mom doesn't know. And sucked
Right
it back
back
up.
up.
Sucked it right back up.
Yeah.
I got a master's in it, but I didn't know what to do with that because I was a father.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so the first line of the song that came to me, I was in Walmart pushing a buggy by like the frozen fish. Was like when his mom left, his dad turned on the liquor and the kid got abused by his babysitter. Now I can't remember his childhood. And I'm like, oh.
Yeah.
That's awful.
Yeah.
Why would I sing about that? And then it kind of came down to, okay, well, my dad's been through his own
All this
relative
stuff.
level of
And he
hell.
turned out
and
good.
And my granddad turned out good too. He should be dead. My dad should probably be in prison for sure. Because, like I said, I've done 700 hours worth of clinical internships. Anybody else with the criteria that my father meets, they don't make it to us because they're already in the pen.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I'm able to, we're out there playing Skinnerd. We're out there playing U2. We're out there playing, we got a song called Can't Make This Shit Up. We're out there playing all our stuff. And then I'm able to do something like that.
Yeah.
And then I'm able to bring my dad out
Dude,
and
that
go,
was
here's
freaking
the evidence
inspirational.
of what I'm talking about. And the
That's
only
awesome.
common denominator, whatever you believe in something, but the only common denominator is the good Lord here is the reason why my granddad's alive and my dad's not in prison. And all the shit that you've been through, that you've been subjected to, that you can't help, whether your mom died when you were an infant, or your dad was a belligerent drunk and just beat the piss out of you, or you're terminally ill, whatever, what have you, you were abused by the one person who was supposed to love and take care of you.
Yeah.
It doesn't have to continue.
Right.
Because that stopped with them. They didn't let me see that.
Yeah.
They had every reason to, and they chose not to.
Amen.
Your kids, that doesn't have to continue. They can turn out all right.
That's correct.
And you can too. And I'm able to sing that and then go, here's your evidence. And I bring my dad out, and we'll do, the first song I ever sang was I Can Only Imagine when I was 3. So we'll pull that bad boy out. Or we'll pull out like Can't Even Walk, which is some like Charles Johnson and the Revivers, old school from the 80s. And there will be as big of a line, if not bigger, when we're done to meet my dad, that's 40-year-old burly man's men. There'll be a bigger line to meet Dad than there will be to meet me, the band, Wimpy Kid fans, Talladega Nights fans.
Yeah.
These dudes bawling their eyes out going, how in the world did you do it?
Yeah.
How did you have a relatively healthy family from that? How are you able to raise a kid that evidently turned out all right through all kinds of this craziness?
Yeah.
And he's able to help people that he didn't speak this until 2 years ago.
Yeah.
And now, I mean, I can't imagine having that upbringing and then standing in front of tens of thousands of people after somebody just sang about the stuff that I've went through.
And tucked.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And just sucked it up.
Yeah.
Got out there and said, okay, that was for a purpose. And we're going to help some people with it. And then we go right back playing LaGrange. We'll end with Simple Man. We'll end with one of ours, and it's screaming guitar solos, and we're back to normal.
Right.
but I didn't plan on playing that song at all. I've got a song coming out called Corn and Kerosene, which is legit. We've got some really cool like Allman Brothers guitar stuff in there. It was sweet because it's a Southern rock crew for sure.
We're about to tap in, man, all the way.
Yeah.
We're going to follow every next step.
Well, I appreciate it. If y'all wouldn't mind following me, it's Grayson, Grayson, C as in cat, Grayson C. Russell, 2 S's, 2 L's. That's on everything. My website is GraysonRussellOnline.com. That's the biggest way to support what I'm doing is, man, just hit a follow, share a couple videos if you like them. If you don't. But that's the biggest thing is because I'm trying to. I say Southern rock because I don't write a lot about mud and trucks. There's nothing wrong with that. That's just not. I didn't grow up doing a bunch of that. I had a dune buggy that we'd ride around in the mud, and I had my granddad's '93 Chevy. Yeah. But I try to sing and write about things that I have expressly walked through the middle of. Because one, I hadn't figured out how to write stuff that I hadn't, and that's not boastful on either side. It's just people are going to throw enough rocks at me for the film side that I want to be sure all my shit's as authentic as it possibly can be.
Yeah.
And hey, I'm here. I'm not here just because I quit acting, which I didn't do. Got a TV show out right now. But I've played utility for 2 years for a Grammy winner. I've played Live Oak here in town. I try to check every little ride around, everything off, every box that I can. Say, hey, here's the people that I've played for. Here are the bands that I've had. Here's what we've done because this is something I've always wanted to do.
I saw you in a writing session with freaking Post Malone.
Yeah, we were hanging out. He said, hey, man, my name's Austin. I'm like, I'm Grayson. It's nice to meet you, Austin. He said, you want a cigarette? And that's the only mother, I'm sorry. But I said, yeah, I'll take one, Post.
You have to.
Sat there, and I've got a little shrine, Post Malone up on my shelf. It's like it's just a little butt end of a cigarette. It's like,
Grayson, dude, again, multi-talented actor, singer, personality cannot be best personality awesome. In the world. Probably that's
the most important
probably my favorite podcast to this day. As far as like. Not only just the stories, but what type of person you are. Yeah. Generally, you're a freaking amazing guy, and I'm glad to now call you my friend.
Yeah, we appreciate it.
Thanks for inviting me over to the fight, dude. That was a good time.
Oh, dude, that was freaking
We watched epic. Patty friggin' wear the dude out, and man who got wore out, I love you.
Sorry.
I love you. And I'm sorry. I know you're American, and normally I pull for the red, white, and blue, but I just know Patty.
Yeah.
And he did get choked out. But don't get me wrong, you would choke me out very quickly. So I commend you, my friend. But it was an entertaining fight. I enjoyed it. So thank you for giving the people what they wanted since we finally got ESPN up and running.
That's awesome.
Hell yeah. All right, do you want to take us out?
All right, man. You know, my normal. We appreciate it, man. Glad our paths crossed. Yeah. Never, like I told you when we met last week, I never thought, that I'd be standing there talking to one of my favorite movie lines of all time. So we appreciate you coming out and joining us. And hey, we look forward to following the journey, man.
Yeah. Hey, thank y'all for having me. I appreciate it. This is fun. It's the first time I put the head rig on. Yeah. Do it all the time, but it's the first time I've sat
awesome,
back. It's sweet. Tom, thank you very much.
All right.
Y'all be good. Hey.
Closing us?
Mountain Dew sponsor me. Hey, y'all stay jacked up. Come out like spider monkeys, tastefully, please. And hey, y'all check out freaking Nashtyville. I'm having a great time. Go check out all the other stuff they got because they're doing some good with what they got going on. It's worth it. It's worth to listen to. It's entertaining. You're gonna be in a car riding around somewhere unless you're trying to like raw dog a flight to the middle of nowhere. Don't do that. Pull out your phone because you got your phone. Download freaking Nashtyville wherever you get your podcast from. And, if you get bored, at least you can do is listen to us talk. And it might help you take a nap on that long flight to wherever you're going. Hey, y'all be good.
Ride around my top down, window shaking a lot now. I'ma stay proud, no Kane Brown, but I thank God for these days now. Don't make sounds, crash glass, no rebounds. N-town, Nashtyville, and I stay proud now.